Picture this. You've worked your entire life for something. Decades. Blood, sweat, tears, and finally, you're about to be recognized for it. The biggest award in your industry. Lifetime Achievement. The pinnacle. Everyone will be there. The cameras. The spotlight. Your moment, but then, someone you care about needs you, not for something big. Not for something that will be remembered. For something quiet. Something private. Something that won't make the news. What do? Most people would say, I'm sorry, but this is my night. I've earned this. They'll understand. But Fred Rogers wasn't most people, and what he did on May 16th, 1997, will either make you think he was the most selfless person who ever lived, or the most foolish. April 15th, 1997, Fred Rogers received a phone call. Fred, I have incredible news. It was the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. You've been selected to receive the Lifetime Achievement Emmy Award at this year's Daytime Emmy Awards ceremony. Fred was quiet for a moment. That's very kind. Thank you. Fred, do you understand what this means? This is the highest honor we give. You'll be recognized in front of the entire industry. Live television. Millions watching, I understand. The ceremony is May 16th in New York. We'll meet you there by 6 p.m. for the red carpet. The award presentation will be around 8:30. Fred wrote it down. May 16th, 8:30 p.m. I'll be there, he said. He hung up the phone, and for the first time in his career, Fred Rogers felt conflicted because he'd spent 40 years telling children that awards don't matter, that trophies are just metal, that what matters is how you treat people, and now he was about to receive the biggest award of his life. And part of him, a small part he didn't like to acknowledge, was excited. Is that wrong? He wondered, is it wrong to want to be recognized? He didn't know, but he had 2 months to figure it out. May 2nd, 1997, Fred was at the studio, filming. His assistant, Elaine, knocked on his dressing room door during a break. Fred, I have some sad news. Fred looked up. David Mitchell just called. His daughter Emma died this morning. Fred's face went pale. Emma? Emma Mitchell? Yes. David Mitchell was a sound engineer. He'd worked on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood for 12 years. Quiet guy. Did his job perfectly. Never complained. Fred knew him. Not well, but enough. And he knew Emma. She was 6 years old. Leukemia. She'd been fighting it for 2 years. Fred had visited her in the hospital once about a year ago. David had asked if Fred would stop by, just for a few minutes, to cheer Emma up. Fred had spent an hour with her. They talked about Daniel Tiger, about feelings, about being scared. Emma had asked him, Mr. Rogers, am I going to die? And Fred, because he was Fred, had told her the truth. I don't know, Emma. Sometimes people get very sick and their bodies stop working. And that's very sad. But even if that happens, the love people have for you never goes away. Love lasts forever. Emma had nodded. Okay, double quotes now. Standing in his dressing room, Fred felt a wave of grief. When is the funeral? He asked quietly. Elaine hesitated. May 16th, 2 p.m. in Pittsburgh. Fred's stomach dropped. May 16th, the same day as the Emmy Awards. The conflict. Let me stop here and ask you something. What would you do? Because this isn't a simple choice. On one hand, a funeral for a 6-year-old girl, the daughter of someone you work with, someone who's been part of your life for 12 years. On the other hand, the Lifetime Achievement Emmy, the highest honor in your field, recognizing 40 years of work. In front of millions. Most people would say, I have to go to the Emmys. David will understand. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And they'd be right, because here's the thing. David would understand. He'd probably insist Fred go to the Emmys. Fred, don't be ridiculous. This is your moment. Emma would want you to go. That's what most people would say. But Fred Rogers wasn't thinking about what most people would say. He was thinking about David sitting in a funeral home, burying his 6-year-old daughter, looking around at the people who showed up and wondering if any of it mattered. May 10th, 1997, 6 days before Fred called the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. This is Fred Rogers. I need to speak to someone about the Lifetime Achievement Award. Mr. Rogers, we're so excited for the ceremony. Everything is set. We have your seat reserved, your speech time allocated. I'm calling because I might not be able to attend. Silence. I'm sorry, what? There's a funeral on the same day. A little girl. The daughter of someone I work with. I'm trying to figure out if there's any way to move the timing, but Mr. Rogers, with all due respect, this is the Daytime Emmy Awards. We have a schedule. We have live television. We can't move your award presentation. I understand. And frankly, Mr. Rogers, this is a once-in-a-lifetime honor. The funeral. I'm sure the family would understand if you couldn't make it. Fred was quiet. Mr. Rogers, I need to think about it. The ceremony is in 6 days. We need to know if you're coming. I'll call you back. Fred hung up. Now, here's what you need to understand. Fred Rogers had been telling children for 40 years that people are more important than things, that awards don't define you, that showing up for someone in grief is more valuable than any trophy. But this wasn't just any award. This was the culmination of his entire career. And if he skipped it, the media would ask why. The Academy would be upset. His colleagues would think he was crazy. And part of him, the part he didn't like, wondered, will anyone remember if I go to this funeral? But everyone will remember if I miss the Emmys. That thought made him feel sick, because it meant he was considering choosing recognition over a grieving father. Asterisk. May 14th, 1997. 2 days before Fred went to visit David Mitchell. David was at home. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Fred, you didn't have to come. I wanted to. They sat in David's living room. The house was too quiet. The kind of quiet that only exists when a child is gone. The funeral is Friday, David said. 2 p.m. Just family and close friends. You're welcome to come, but I know you have that Emmy thing. Fred looked at him. The Emmy thing. Yeah, Lifetime Achievement, right? That's huge, Fred. You should go. David, no, seriously. Emma loved your show. She'd want you to go. She'd think it was cool that you won an award. Fred's eyes were wet. David, can I ask you something? Of course. What do you need right now? David looked confused. What do I need? Yes, what do you need? Not what do you think I should do? What do you need? David was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, very quietly, I need to know that Emma mattered. That her life wasn't just 6 years and then gone. I need to know that people cared about her. That she wasn't just a name in an obituary. Fred nodded slowly. Then I'll be at the funeral. Fred, you don't have to. I'll be there. May 15th, 1997. The day before Fred called the Academy. This is Fred Rogers. I'm calling about the Lifetime Achievement Award. Mr. Rogers, we're so glad you called. Everything is set for tomorrow night. Your car will pick you up at... I'm not coming. Silence. I'm sorry. What? I can't attend the ceremony. Something has come up that I can't reschedule. Mr. Rogers, this is the Daytime Emmy Awards. This is live television. You can't just not show up. I understand that. and I apologize for the inconvenience. But I won't be there. Can I ask why? A funeral. A funeral. Yes. Mr. Rogers, with all due respect, is this funeral for a family member? No. A close friend? A colleague's daughter. A colleague's daughter. Yes. The person on the other end of the line sighed. Mr. Rogers, I don't think you understand the gravity of what you're doing. This is a Lifetime Achievement Award. People wait their entire careers for this moment. And you're skipping it for a colleague's child's funeral? Yes, this will be in the press. People will ask questions. It won't look good. I understand. And you're sure? This is your final decision? I'm sure. All right. We'll figure something out. Maybe we can present it to you another time. That would be fine. Thank you. Fred hung up Dot and then he sat in his office, alone, wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his career. May 16th, 1997. The day the funeral was at 2 p.m. Fred arrived at 1:45. The funeral home was small. Maybe 30 people there. Family. A few close friends. Some of David's co-workers from the studio. Fred slipped in quietly and sat in the back. David saw him. His face crumpled. He mouthed, "Thank you." The service was simple. A pastor spoke. Emma's mother spoke. David couldn't speak. He tried, but he couldn't get the words out. And then, something Fred hadn't expected. The pastor said, "Emma's father wanted me to share something." Emma's favorite thing in the world was Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. She watched it every day, even when she was too sick to get out of bed. And one time, Mr. Rogers came to visit her in the hospital. And Emma told her father that day, "Mr. Rogers made me feel like I mattered." Fred closed his eyes. The pastor continued, "And I think that's the greatest gift we can give anyone. To make them feel like they matter." Emma mattered. Her life mattered. And she knew that because people like Mr. Rogers showed up for her. After the service, David came up to Fred. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did. The Emmys don't matter. Not compared to this." David hugged him. And Fred held him while he cried. May 16th, 1997, 8:30 p.m. While Fred was at a small reception after the funeral. The Daytime Emmy Awards were happening in New York. At 8:30 p.m. The Lifetime Achievement Awards segment began. The host explained that Fred Rogers was unable to attend due to a personal matter, but that he would be honored nonetheless. They showed a video tribute. Clips from Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Testimonials from colleagues. And then they said something Fred would never have said about himself. Fred Rogers has spent 40 years teaching children that people are more important than things. That showing up for someone matters more than awards. And tonight, he's living that lesson. Because while we're here celebrating his career, Fred is at a funeral. For a 6-year-old girl named Emma, the daughter of a sound engineer he works with. Because that's who Fred Rogers is. He doesn't just talk about what matters. He lives it. The audience gave a standing ovation for a man who wasn't there. The aftermath the next day. The media exploded. Fred Rogers skips Emmy for child's funeral. Mr. Rogers chooses funeral over Lifetime Achievement Award. Some praised him. This is why Fred Rogers is a legend. He lives his values. Others criticized him. This is disrespectful to the Academy. You don't skip the Emmys. Fred didn't respond to any of it, but he did receive a letter 2 weeks later from David Mitchell. "Dear Fred, I don't know how to thank you for what you did. When Emma died, I felt like the world had ended. And in a way, it had. My world. The world that included my daughter. The funeral was one of the hardest days of my life. But when I looked up and saw you sitting there in the back, I realized something. Emma mattered. Not just to me. Not just to her mother. But to people who didn't have to be there. People who had other places they could have been. You had the biggest night of your career. And you chose to sit in a funeral home with 30 people and mourn a 6-year-old you only met once. That told me something I needed to hear. My daughter's life mattered. Her death mattered. She wasn't just a name in an obituary. You've spent 40 years telling children that they matter, that they're special, that people care about them. And on May 16th, you proved it. Thank you, Fred. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being the person you've always told us to be. With all my gratitude. David Fred kept that letter in his desk drawer, and years later, when someone asked him if he regretted missing the Emmys, he said, "I've never regretted choosing a person over an award. Awards are wonderful. Recognition is meaningful. But at the end of the day, what matters is how we treat people when they need us most." David needed someone to show up, to tell him that his daughter's life mattered, that her death mattered, and I couldn't do that from an Emmy stage in New York. I could only do it by being there. 2003. The legacy Fred Rogers died on February 27th, 2003. At his funeral, someone unexpected spoke. David Mitchell. He told the story of Emma, of the funeral, of Fred's choice. And then he said, "Fred Rogers taught me something on May 16th, 1997. He taught me that the measure of a person isn't what they do when the cameras are on. It's what they do when no one's watching, when there's nothing to gain, when the only reason to show up is because someone needs you." Fred had a choice that day. Glory or grief. Recognition or presence. He chose presence. And that's why we loved him. Not because he won awards. Not because he was famous. But because when it mattered, he showed up.